Hello again, everyone. Kata Kosman, publisher of Madison's Lumber Reporter, here toward the end of January to give you another update of the softwood lumber and panel prices and market comment. Just to be clear, the prices that I quote, they come from my newsletter, Madison's Lumber Reporter, and are FOB sawmill prices, so mill gate prices. These are producer or large stocking wholesaler prices. And what we have now, before the end of January 2022, prices are rising. But just last week, as we were doing our weekly price update, they're flattening out a little bit. It looks like there is an equilibrium coming on between the buyer and the seller to get what potentially might become a leveling off of the prices. I'll be showing you the graphs and all that wonderful data that I do in a second. The reason that I say that is the increases that we've had in the last couple of weeks are smaller than the increases of before the holiday season, which doesn't always mean that the prices are going to level off, but there's other factors that make me think that. I will say that February is usually the large volume sales time for the sawmills because that's when the large U.S. home builders are making their purchases for the upcoming spring building season of the wood that they know they're going to need for the projects that they already have booked coming up. Just because it's usually February doesn't mean it's going to be February this year. But I'm putting that in there as it's possible that there's a wee drop right now. The issue most important for everyone in the market is transportation. When it gets to the point where people who need wood, but the delivery of the wood that they had already ordered, or the sawmill is booking production, but the transportation of that eventual product is going to be delayed, it makes people nervous. They don't necessarily like booking sales 2 months from now for eventual delivery 2 months from now. A lot of things can happen in 2 months. I mean, we've all seen these weather circumstances. Now we've got labor issues. We know that there's been a worker shortage. Now we've got potentially work stoppages or other kinds of situations putting pressure on either the lumber manufacturing or at the building project. So let's really quick have a look at the graphs and the table that I show you. And then I'll come back with a little bit more of that overall market commentary. So what we have here is the table of comparison of current prices against the historical. These are referred to as the top 6 benchmark because they are produced and sold in the highest volume, and they meet the building code, so they are the ones that are most often used in construction. On the top there, the 3 2x4 prices, Western Spruce, Southern Pine, and Eastern Spruce. They are, relatively speaking, interchangeable, and customers can switch depending on what the price is and other circumstances like delivery times. Then you have your studs. Can't build a house without studs. I've chosen Western Spruce 2x4 because, again, that's the benchmark. Douglas fir 2x4s are highly preferred by architects on the U.S. Eastern Seaboard, which is a high population area. And then you've got your panel. We've chosen plywood here. Can't build a house without either plywood or OSB. And here we have Western Spruce 2x4 prices produced in British Columbia, Alberta, Washington State, Oregon, and a little bit out of Idaho, showing you from 2019 to present. We're going to start deleting that red line 2019 as it's meant to be a 2-year rolling representation. That little purple bit on the far left is this year. Very interesting that the trend line for the end of last year really matched quite closely the year before. I don't remember that happening this close to each other in the past. Then we've got the beginning of this year actually up a little bit higher than last year. But like I said, we may be seeing some price drops or some leveling off in the near term. We'll see what happens. I don't think it's going to go to 1600 like it did in the spring of last year, because the market is now relatively equalized over all of the uncertainty that we previously had. This is a similar graph for the southern yellow pine that I put in that table. It's showing you quite a different relationship from last year to the year before. But look at that purple line for the beginning of this year, really up a lot more. This is what I mean by which ones are the market leaders. The southern pine on the east side of the United States is produced at quite a high volume. I would think that it leads the central and west side prices for southern pine. What are we seeing here? Is that a big correction as this price was lagging the others, the eastern spruce and western spruce in my table? Or is something else going on? People have been talking a lot about the log supply in the US South. So we'll have to see as time goes by, but that's very interesting, the difference. Here we've got those three prices, the western spruce, eastern spruce, and southern pine, showing you from 2019 to present. Again, we're going to start deleting that 2019 as it's meant to be a 2-year rolling average monthly. And then this graph will be a little bit more dynamic starting from 2020 to the present. But once again, we've got quite a big dip going on in the third quarter of last year, and then another rise. So these up and downs are letting us know that the seller and buyer are struggling to find the middle ground. And this happens as the market is maturing and different circumstances are coming into play. We are in a situation now in 2022 where we do know a lot more than we did, let's say, 2 years ago. And that means I would expect some stability to be coming on. Prices probably higher than previously, but not crazy. Okay, and so those are the graphs and the table. They come off my dashboard, which my subscribers to my newsletter can access every Friday morning when we've uploaded the new data for that week. There's 500 individual softwood lumber and panel commodity prices showing up in that dashboard, as well as a 1,200-word market commentary describing throughout those different products, species, and regions what's happening in the market, why those prices are changing, details like sawmill order files, how's the inventory at the mill or throughout the supply chain, what's the log supply, weather, transportation, all of these things we cover in detail. So here in YouTube, if you click like, the video will get spread around and more people can see all this wonderful information I'm giving you. Looks like I'm going to be doing these updates probably a couple times a month. Click subscribe here on my YouTube to be able to see those as soon as I do them. But also in the caption there, go onto my website, madisonsreport.com. There's a menu along the top, subscribe. You can fill out a form and it will send you a sample of the full price list along with that market commentary that I'm talking about. And that way you can have access to everything that my subscribers have on Friday for that week when it comes out, instead of waiting a couple of weeks when I put it on the website or make a YouTube. So to give you more of an overview about the underpinnings for this continued strong lumber demand and these prices, as I say, they're going up a little bit more slowly than they were going before. That doesn't mean that there might not be another ramp up in a couple of weeks. But what we have is December 2021 housing starts in the US up from November, and full year 2021 up from 2020, up a lot, and 2020 was up a lot. So there is a sustained momentum to building and to lumber demand, which is not going to just switch off in a month or so. These people who keep trying to say, just because lumber prices are high, seems like they're high compared to the previous 10 years, that we're in a bubble. It's not a bubble. We're not in a bubble. These lumber prices, this home construction activity is not going to just turn off, and it's going to stay up through this year, 2022. So the housing starts, the construction activity is breaking the previous year records. And the home sales are also up. So December 2021 home sales are up from November, and full year 2021 is up from full year 2020, which again was really hot. I mean, full year 2020, I mean, that was really insane because the changes to society from COVID and people getting a different work situation, but that it's up even more last year than the year before tells you something. And there's a couple of things which, you know, really demonstrate why I'm saying this is not going to stop right away. Looking at that real estate home buying data a little bit more closely, because real estate activity does drive new home building. Existing home sales push into new home sales, which push new home construction up higher. So the data for the housing selling is that we have a record number of homes sold, not yet completed construction, or even not started construction. And we have record low inventory of homes for sale. When it says months on the market or months to sell the home, that is at a record low level. And we still are in a situation where home buyers are bidding higher than the asking price and even closing on a sale without having seen the home. So this is what I mean by very longer term home selling activity, which is just going to keep lumber production and wood sales up. You know, I would say we're sure for this year. The demographic data is showing we've got 15 years of millennials turning first-time home buyer age, and 10 years of underbuilding in the US. Following the housing market crash of 2006, there was not enough homes being built for the population during that time. And then now we've got this big rush of people, this large amount of people. There are more millennials than there were baby boomers coming into being home buyers. So really undercurrent of continued strength. And Madison's will be here regularly to let you know what impact that has on the lumber market and what is happening with lumber prices.